Hey there everybody, welcome back with the Plat. Purplatypus is the name, and no games of Runeterra today, but as you can see, we got a big ol' fat balance patch. Patch 0.9.2. This should be the biggest balance update so far to the game. I haven't been doing a review or, going over the patch notes that happen in between the balance patches, the minor ones. I'm probably just gonna pass those and mostly focus on the bigger ones every other week. If you notice me making any weird faces or stopping for a second, I am having a bit of a migraine tonight, so if it's a bit distracting, I apologize, but I definitely wanted to go over this with you guys. Dev notes, state of the beta. We'll try to keep it a little more brief. Last time I rambled on a bit too long, but still we'll go into detail as well. I contradict myself constantly. Just a repost this time, but in case you missed it, check out our design. All right, we already saw that. That's going to be a different thing. So, card updates. These are the big ones, and they jump right into it. Hecarim. Problem card number 1, in my opinion. Maybe not number 1, but it's way, way up there. Shadow Isles just in general. So this, when I first read it, he's a 6 mana, 4/5. Sorry, he was a 6 mana, 4/6. Summons 2 3/2s. He also has Overwhelm. So they changed quite a bit about him. They knocked his health down from 6 to 5, and that seems small, right? 1 HP, but it does allow you to have more flexible removal options. 1 point of damage is pretty darn good. It allows you to do like a Mystic Shot and a Get Excited, where that wouldn't have done it before. You would have had to use a Get Excited and a Black Spear to Get Excited, It is much harder. Now you have more options, more combinations of cards that could destroy it. You don't need quite as much mana if you're going to use that, the one that uses the rest of your mana to deal damage. And you're also able to just block with more, 2/2s can now be paired with some removal to remove it. So it's not the biggest nerf of all time, but it is, 1 HP could be pretty noticeable in a game like this. They also go into their reasoning here, which actually I kind of like this because they wanted to nerf him, but they wanted to nerf his general strength while buffing his deck that he goes in, making it so you could still, they're actually giving him a buff here. His level up, you used to have to require attacking with 8 ephemeral units. Now you only have to attack with 7. And we'll get down here, they gave him another buff that only affects ephemeral decks. So he got 2 nerfs, essentially, for general all-purpose. But then he got 2 buffs for the ephemeral side. So even though he may not be as auto-include in everything, he's even better fit for the deck that he was designed to fit into, which is really, really cool. I love those way of nerfing a card, but then buffing it and its own archetype that it was underperforming in. Maybe it wasn't underperforming, but now it's a better card in that deck specifically. So even though it's kind of a weak deck, now they have better cards for it. So when Hecarim levels up, still gets +1/+1 like basically all champions do. When he attacks, he still summons 2 Spectral Riders, but the Spectral Riders have been changed to 2/2s. I don't know where it says that here. I think it says it right here. So they used to be 3/2s, and now they're going to be, yeah, right here. Now they're knocked all the way down to 2/2s. Again, this might seem small, but this is 2 damage lower when Hecarim is attacking, right? So he still has the same here, but now they're getting 2/2. It's easier to block. If you have to take the damage, it just deals, 2 damage less, which is a big deal. Overall, this is a really good nerf in my opinion. I really like the Spectral Rider side being nerfed. And it looks like they actually they had to kind of nerf the card as well. Now this summons 2/2s instead of 3/2s. They actually knocked it down from a 3-cost card to a 2-cost card. So that actually gives you, instead of 3 mana for what, a 6/4 in stats, it's 2 mana for a 4/4 in stats. So this card might actually be more powerful at 2 mana now. Probably not, but when something gets a whole mana discount, it got 33% of its cost removed, it makes it easier to sneak it in a lot of other turns. But 3/2 is not as significant as some others because spell mana can hold up to 3. Also, when Hecarim attacks, he used to give +2 allies. The leveled up version used to give +2 to his ephemeral allies. They buffed that to +3. So these guys still have 3 power. They still have the same, because before they were getting +2, right? So they're going up to 5. They still go up to 5 with a leveled up Hecarim because they moved. They took out the front loaded part of his power and they kind of backloaded it. Which is just really cool. This is a really fun way to nerf a card without nerfing it into the ground and actually buffing it in some of the ways that I think the card could have been buffed in. Overall, I'm very happy with Hecarim. I still think it's going to be pretty much an auto-include in a lot of decks because it's still insane. But this is like a good step forward and any nerf to it makes it slightly easier to deal with, and less punishing if you don't have the answers. Callista. Now, this is a card that in the in the closed beta had a very similar to what they kind of buffed it to, but basically it was I think it was a 3-mana 4/2. It bonded with something when it came down, and when Castilla got dealt damage, it dealt it to the bonded unit instead. After their bonded unit died, I think they leveled up and would summon that same bonded unit again and again. Maybe it was a little pushed. I don't know. I think it was overpowered in the closed beta when people are still new. Now I think it would probably be a little more balanced, but they did rework it, kind of more similar to what it was before compared to what you know. So they made it, they brought its health up from 2 to 3, which is pretty good. Obviously, it doesn't get Mystic Shotted now. A 3-mana 4/3 with Fearsome is pretty good. I won't lie. As far as champions go, this is an insanely boring champion on the front half. A 3-mana 4/3 with Fearsome, and then its level up, it has to see 4 allies die, is pretty brutal. So this is a hard card to want to use. It's slightly overstated with the keyword, but even then, it's a boring keyword, in my opinion. I don't really like Fearsome. Not that it's not good, I just don't really like it. It doesn't do anything when it comes into play other than have its body. Not a particularly good defender. It's definitely an attacker. And then you have to have 4 allies die while it's in the field, which is hard to do. But once you level this up, this card becomes nuts. A 3-mana 5/4 obviously gets the +1/+1. And now, it's a lot of text here, but basically, I'll just read it here. Has Fearsome. The first time I attack each round, revive an attacking ephemeral copy of the strongest dead allied follower. This round, the bonded ally takes damage for me. So every time you attack, this will resummon the strongest follower that you've had that's died this game, and it will take damage instead of Callista. So if you have, what would be a decent one potentially? That the 3-mana 5/5, right? The 3-mana 5/5 lifelink ephemeral guy, because you can curve that out pretty early. Every time, if that's the strongest thing that's died, every time she attacks, she's gonna summon that back. And if they try to deal damage to her, if they try to use Get Excited, 3 damage goes straight to the 5/5 instead of her. So she gets protected, she gets another body to attack with. And she gets to do it every time she attacks. She summons the strongest ally. It's not the same one. It's whatever, if the new stronger follower dies, she'll start summoning the stronger follower. And they also get Ephemeral, which is pretty easy to mess with. Obviously, it's good with, there's a lot of Shadow Isles Ephemeral stuff. You're paired with, I think it's Ionia, you can get that card ability to remove Ephemeral, right, and put it onto something else, which can get pretty nutty, because you can attack, summons an Ephemeral for free, 0 mana, and then you can remove that Ephemeral, put it on one of their things, and then the thing stays. Then the next turn you get another one. I don't know if it could revive the same one multiple times. That would be an interesting reaction, but this card is definitely worth building around now. Before, it was just too weak and terrible. The first one was probably the best one, still better than this one. This front half is so hard to work. Like, they have a whole, you don't want to build a deck around this card and have this be your only win condition. You want to make a deck that could win without Callista, but have this as a alternate win condition or one of your more powerful mid-game plays, because it could still be removed by a ton of things, and it doesn't do that much. So maybe just you're playing aggressive in general, and sometimes you get her to level up, and then she just runs away with the game. I think it's kind of more like a Draven, where Draven doesn't always level up, even though he's really good in the front half for aggro decks. Probably better than this, honestly. But, yeah, sorry, I'm rambling too much. Let's move on. Callista, very, very awesome buff. She needed it desperately. Much more fun card now, and I'll definitely make a deck with it. Black Spear got a nerf. I don't like Black Spear getting a nerf. Now it's just worse Get Excited, I feel like. I mean, I guess you don't... Get Excited requires you to discard a card, because on paper, Get Excited to me sounds like a bad card, but there's not that much removal options in the game, so it's really good just because of that. Black Spear going from 2 to 3... I just don't feel like the early removal was the problem with the Shadow Isles stuff, I guess. I don't know. I liked it at 2. It felt like it made sense when Get Excited was at 3, and this is at 2. You still have to have a unit die, but then you could deal 3 damage. Yeah, if an allied unit dies this turn, deal 3 damage to a unit, and then you get the Shuffle Callistus because it's her card. So this is kind of a weird nerf. It's fine. I don't love it, though. I do like having removal... this much damage removal at a lower casting cost, just because there's a lot of like fearsome stuff going around, a lot of aggro decks, and this is anti-aggro, and I tend to be a slower control-y player anyway, so I tend to like cheaper, more efficient removal. Again, 2 to 3 is not as bad as a 3 to 4 because you don't need to hold up spell mana. Or I mean, you could just hold up spell mana. A little harder to weave in, but still a good card. Just I think that is a pretty big hit for it as well. Vile Feast is just a better card most of the time, which is just weird that Vile Feast didn't get hit and this did. How would you nerf Vile Feast though? The numbers are all so small. Maybe make it 3 mana. Maybe just get rid of the drain. Maybe have it only summon a 1/1 if it kills something. And those are all ways that you could nerf it. But yeah, that's questionable. 1/4 Vanguard Lookout went from Border Lookout to Vanguard. He became an elite. Probably insignificant, right? Doesn't actually change anything about the card. Still probably pretty terrible. It's a bad Boom Crew rookie in every single way. But in the elite deck, you do have a 2-drop now, or, you know, at least an additional 2-drop. Trying to think if there is one right now. There's the 1-mana 2/2. But there's a few cards that, like, there's the 4-mana 3/3. Every time you play an elite, it gets 1 cheaper. So there's some synergy going on here. It might make it into an elite-only deck, but it's a bad card. These are crazy interesting. I am excited to make this deck, no joke. There's a plethora of changes here. Mage Secret, all the Mage Seekers, they changed them all up, and they actually get more and more significant as we go on here. So this was a 4-mana 1/4. You had to discard a spell, and you got power equal to its cost. Terrible card. Why would you play a 4-mana thing with 4 health, even if you discarded a Judgment, you know, and it became a 9/4 for 4 mana? That's still fucking terrible because it could be blocked by 1-drops, and you got rid of the best spell in your hand. Like, to play it, it was terrible. Now it's just a flat out a 4-mana 4/3, which is usable stats. Not the best stats. You'd really like that 4th HP, but it's okay. It's still usable. But then grant me +2/+2 once you've cast a 6-cost spell this game. So that means even if this is in your hand, if you could draw this later in the game, you don't need to play this and then cast a 6-cost spell. Once you cast a 6-cost spell in the game, this thing gets +2/+2, and then suddenly it's a 4-mana 6/5. 6/5 for 4 mana is way better. This is probably not as amazing as some of the other ones that we're seeing coming up, but I do quite like this one. It's just good stats for the mana. And, you know, obviously, when you're casting a 6-cost spell, you're getting that value as well. And then it's kind of like if you play something like, I think it's even back-to-back. I think back-to-back was nerfed, which is nerfed to 6, right? But now it could fit in this deck, where if you give this +3/+3 and another thing +3/+3, suddenly it's getting an additional +2/+2. So the fact that that's a burst spell at 6 mana that is hugely powerful for trading is pretty nuts. So this card has a lot of potential now, I think, as where it had nothing before. I love the reworks. Mage Secret Investigator. Play, if you cast the spell this round, this is the old text, remove all text and keywords from an enemy follower. I really like this. I liked having an additional silence effect, but they did create it with something probably better. Create a detain when you've cast a 6+ cost spell this game. So, obviously it's a 3-mana 3/3, but if you've played a 6-mana spell this game, you play this and then you get a detain in your hand, right? Detain is 5 mana. It's capture a unit. It's really, really good, especially if you're running it with things like Purify, so you can have one unit detain multiple things and then purify your things so they can't get them back ever. It's kind of a roundabout way of doing a vengeance, but sometimes it's better because it bypasses last breath and stuff. It's kind of like silencing them and then killing them, but you could do it in the opposite order as well. Plus, detain and the silence on their own are, since they're separate cards, unlike vengeance, they could be used flexibly as well. You might want to detain that, but you may not want to, you may want to silence that other thing instead. So there's a lot of flexibility in that. But this card is interesting now. You create a detain. If you're running 3 of these in your deck, this is the same as running 3 detains. If you're running this and some detains, you're running, these are extra copies of detain. This can only create 1 detain, right? But each one can create 1 detain. Unless I'm mistaken it, but I don't think so. So if you're running 3 of these, you're automatically running 3 detains in your deck. Maybe not on curve. If you play this on turn 3 and then it dies, before you ever get to cast a 6-cost spell, then it doesn't get the spell value out of it. But even then, like a 3-mana 3/3 is fine. And then in the later game, it just gives you free detains, free removal spells, basically, is nuts. And I believe detain can get champions too. I actually don't remember detain off the top of my head. I mean, that's worth looking up. LOR detain. Why am I making you guys see all this? Because I want to. Captures a unit. Yeah, I can capture anything. So really, really cool card. Just, it's Demacia removal, which I think they kind of need. I mean, Detain's good, but now you could have Detain or Body, flexible, or sometimes both. Love it. Mage Secret Persuader. This card is getting the most significant change. It's huge. It was a 6 cost, and now it's going down to a 2 cost, a 4 mana discount, which means it's actually just getting a rework, right? It's going to be a totally different card in a lot of ways. Its power went from 4 to 3, so it got a nerf of 1 power, but it got a buff of 1 health. So it's the same amount of stats. It's 5 stats, 4 mana cheaper. So what the old text was, discard a spell to grant me health equal to its cost. Again, think of the best case scenario as like a judgment or something. You discard the best spell in your hand, which is terrible, and you are making it a 4/9 with Challenger. That's not worth the cards. It's not worth 6 mana and losing your best card just to get something that gets removed by one of their cards, right? You're like 2 for 1ing yourself. So it's terrible. But now at 2 mana, grant me +1/+1 and Challenger once you've cast a 6 cost spell this game. A 2 mana 3/2 is great stats. That is fantastic stats. It's overstatted in the right way. It's actually weird because in Hearthstone you normally want a 2/3, but in Legends of Runeterra 3/2 is actually better defensively, which sounds weird, but you could block Fearsome at 3/2 unless they have the Skitterer, which gives you -1 attack. Like you could block all their Fearsome stuff. So this is a really, really nice point of attack to have over the health, I think, even. Because the health will help it survive against one removal, but I think the attack is actually better. And not to mention, later in the game, it's just a 2 mana 4/3 with Challenger, which is really good. It deals with elusives well, it blocks against Fearsome well, it even attacks pretty darn well for a 2-drop. Overall, this card I think is powerful enough to definitely be a 3 of in any kind of Lux deck. It's kind of weird, these all synergize with Lux, and right, aren't these guys all like mage seekers? They're hunters, they hunt mages, and Lux is a mage, and they are yeah, I don't know why they synergize so well, but the point is they do. So I can't wait to be playing 4 Mage Seekers and Luxes, 3 in Luxes, and this guy I'm not sure is going to be a 4 of yet. I have to kind of build this deck still, but these are all great changes, super powerful. Crowd favorite, getting a nerf from 2 HP to 1 HP. We don't really care. You're probably going to play this when it's already above most removal. The only thing this is going to change is that it'll probably get to attack 1 less time, which is significant, but we really care about the 4 mana having, having to be a 6 overwhelm attack. If it's a 6/5 versus a 6/6, it's not likely to make much difference. Hiccup, sorry. But it is enough of a difference where he might die 1 attack sooner. So, yeah, not going to be as oppressive. Plus, if they played on an empty board, which they never would, you can Vile Feast it, I guess. I don't know. Iceborne Legacy is a card I love. I should say I loved. Not really digging it now. Old text, burst speed. This is very important. Grants an allied and all allied copies of it everywhere, +1/+1. So this card is at 3 mana, burst speed, grant a couple things on your board, +1/+1. If you do it on spiders, maybe you're getting 4 things, +1/+1. Maybe you're getting crazy if you get it with spiders. It's still like not incredible, but it was like I was like, all right, it was at least fun, right? Now they grant allied, now they bumped it to 5, so it's not quite double the mana cost, but you get double the effect. Wow, that's crazy. That's actually really good. Now you get +2/+2 in all copies. Oh wait, they made it a slow spell. They made it a slow spell. What are you using this on? Use it on Poros. They're gonna Mystic Shot your Poro. They use it on spiders. They're gonna Mystic Shot your spider. If you use it on Elnux, like yeah, that's probably what it's for. But is that good enough to even want as a slow speed? It's like at slow speed, you can't do it as a combat trick. They can remove your thing in response, and you get no effect out of it for 5 mana. It just the slow speed ruins this card. It's so unplayable. Like even at least at the 3 mana burst speed, it was a bad card that was playable because you got the effect. And you could totally build around it and have some, meme stuff. But now at a slow speed, it's like a way worse version of Dawn for Dusk. Because Dawn for Dusk, you're spending 6 mana for a slow spell that, they could counter by removing the creature or something. But at least when that resolves, you just win the game almost every time, right? This, if you resolve it, it's just like, it's a nice buff that it's going to take a lot of times multiple turns, or you're going to be so late into the game that it's just like, I just don't get it. At burst speed, being able to use it as a combat trick to sneak in for some damage, get some good trades, and then be able to get some additional value later is good. But at slow speed, I think this is actually a nerf to the card when they intended it to be a buff. Yeah, I'm not feeling it. I like that card though. Pack Mentality, give an ally and all other allies of its group +3/+3 and Overwhelm. Card never saw play, but now it just gives allies +2/+2 and Overwhelm. Probably better overall its group thing is a little tough because there's not that many groups. Like, there are spiders, there are I think there are some mechs, and there are poros, and there are elites, but it's kind of hard, and this is probably mostly for poros, but it's just like a little tough to make that work. But now, giving all your allies +2 and +2 in Overwhelm, I mean, if you have 5 allies on the field even, right, you're getting +10/+10 in Overwhelm. It's like having a good version of that burst speed Tryndamere spell, although, of course, it's slow, so they can... the thing is, even though this is slow, it's not that bad because it doesn't target something. They could deny it, yes, but if they, like, you do it and they kill your biggest thing, or, you know, you don't need to target anything. So this will resolve, and all the minions they don't kill will still get this effect. So just way better, way more... It basically resolves all the time outside of detain, so, or sorry, outside of deny. So pack mentality, I think this is actually a decent buff for it. Obviously the stats are lower, but the fact that it hits anything now is pretty good. This is a little too niche. This is a very, very broad for a slightly weaker effect, but now the effect can actually be used. Poro snacks going from 4 to 3, 100% support this. Poros are not amazing by any stretch of the imagination. However, I love playing Poros, especially with Von Yip. And this slight buff will just help the deck out a decent amount. Not incredible, but Poros aren't tier 1. They're not going to be tier 1 after this, but they'll be slightly more viable, which is all I want. It looks like they said they did this mostly for Expedition because Poros are by far the worst in Expedition, and duh, you can see why. When things like Elnux exist, right? All right, Elnux. This might be the biggest problem card currently in the meta. I don't actually face it that much because I don't play Masters. I mostly play just casual ladder, and most of the time people aren't playing this. I don't know why, but I just don't interact with it that much. But you know, we've all seen the high rolls. It's nuts. Old text. Play, summon each Elnuk in the top 10 cards of your deck. Broken. That's the top third of your deck. It's more than the top third of your deck because the top fourth of your deck because you build a card with 40 decks or 40 cards. But by the time you play this, you know, you've already drawn several cards. So sometimes, yeah, it is like the top third of your deck. It'll look for all other Elnuks and just put them all on the field. You just fucking out of a full board of insane stats on turn 5. Really, really hard to deal with. There's not a board wipe in the game that deals with it other than like the next, if they play this and they're not attacking, then you save up all your mana. On turn 6, you can Ruination with full spell mana. Like, but like that's almost it, right? There's not, I mean, there is the grant all battling allies. No, there's not a whole lot you could do. So too powerful, duh. Now, play for the top 6 cards in your deck. So it's not quite half the effect, but it is 4 cards shallower, which is a pretty big deal, if you ask me. You know, 40% decrease in effect. Summon each Elnuk. So it's 40%, it digs 40% less far. And then you shuffle the rest into your deck. The rest of the cards into your deck. So I think this means it reshuffles your deck. I think with the issue with what it did before, it's like it didn't shuffle your deck or something. There was something weird about, like, it looked at the top 10 cards and just put them on the bottom or something. I don't know. It was a little bit weird where people could get multiple high rolls multiple times in a row. It actually got easier to get high roll. I don't actually know how the shuffling worked, but this clarifying, maybe, I don't know if this is actual change or if it's just clarification, but it shuffles the rest of the cards into your deck, so this should reorder your deck so you're less likely to cycle through faster and faster, I suppose. But yeah, 40% decrease. I still don't like the effect in general. It's just too Hearthstone-y of effect for me. It's too high roll. It's either you get it or you don't. So right, I don't like allegiance very much. I don't like the percent chance of something happening, or like, oh, I have, you know, 20, or sorry, I have like 35 and 5, so it's still, but there's always that percent chance. Yeah, I don't know. I just don't like the effect, but it's a very, very good nerf overall. 2 mana, 2/2. Play me, recall an ally. It's a fantastic card. The 3 power makes it, like, it should only be a 2/2. Elusive stats. Elusive should come with a premium, and but not being slightly overstated and evasive. Now I know the drawback is as to recall an ally, but we all know that's not a drawback. You're playing it with the Inspiring Mentor anyway, right? Like, there's a good chance it's always going to come down as a 3/2 anyway. So the fact that it's coming down as a 4/2 is pretty nuts. But now that it's a 2/2, you might want to just run the, I mean, everyone's already running it, but the one that's the 2/1 that gets +1/+0 for every ally that you play that turn. But the 2 health is still not irrelevant, and the ability to recall, well, the mandate to recall an ally is good. It's a positive in most of these decks. Obviously, it's good, you know, helps the Yasuo, but who cares about that? Outside of that, there's just a lot of things that you do want to recall and replay again for additional value. So it is a nerf. It's a nerf that I think is very well warranted. Definitely makes the card weaker. It gives you more time to respond to it. It's not any easier to kill, but, you know, hypothetically, it is easier to trade with, depending on what you got. And it just deals less damage, which is important. This one hurts me. Chump Wump is going from a 4-4 to a 4-3. Chump Wump is a card that just felt like an auto-include in every deck that was running Piltover, but it never felt overpowered. It just felt like always good enough to fit in every deck, which I guess is a problem because it's a mushroom card, right? That's what they want, but a 4-mana 4-4 is surprisingly good stats. It blocks really well. It attacks really well. It gives you 2 mushroom clouds, which if a game grinds on too long, they could do insane damage to the Nexus. I mean, you know, 10 between the 2 of them. It's really good with Rummage. It's just a great card in general. But it's not like it's not overpowered, I don't think. I think it's just really good. It's kind of like a Boom Crew Rookie, where it's just really good, and it's very easy to include in a lot of decks, but without being itself overpowered. So the HP nerf does hurt me because I mostly play this as a defensive player, so it's going to be a little bit worse of a blocker, but I don't know if I'll take it out of any decks that I'm running in still. I still love looking at this card because it makes me happy when I see it, but I don't think this is a needed nerf, but it's also understandable because everyone was just using it all the time. FlasherBrilliance is a weird card here. This feels like they made this so you combine it with the new Lux, or with Lux in general in the new cards. Create a random spell in your hand, refill your spell mana. That's what I did before. Now it's create a random spell in your hand, but the random spell is 6+ in mana cost, and then you refill your spell mana. So it just, all he did is take out some RNG in this card. So I think this is mostly targeted at Heimerdinger. I think that's actually what they say here too, is that you could play this, get a different burst spell, and then sometimes cast another burst spell like right away. You know, you could get multiple spells chaining off like really, really quick. And now it's much, much harder in the early game if you play Heimer to instantly get a bunch of spells going. And so it just slows down Heimer a little bit, but it always gives them a more relevant, more powerful spell for the later game. So it's not really a nerf. It's kind of a shifting in power. Again, it's kind of a little bit weaker early on in the game while being a little bit stronger later in the game. I like it. I'm not sure how I feel about it, but I'm definitely going to try to put this in the Lux deck because, like, why not, right? It's essentially a 0-mana spell, and you get a better spell for it, and it does synergize with some things as well, especially in Piltover. Rummage, this seems like a small change. It's actually huge, in my opinion. Like, I complain about Rummage a lot. If you look at some of my discard decks videos. It just said to play, discard 2, draw 2. Great card, phenomenal card. Everyone likes being able to dig this deep in their deck. But if you had one card in your hand, you couldn't do anything with it. It felt so bad to have a Rummage and then you were top decking and then you had to play that card because, you know, you're trying to not fall behind. So Rummage would be dead in your hand quite a bit, especially in a Jinx deck where you're drawing an extra card every turn, essentially. Where it's like, you know, because Jinx, you draw 2 cards, and then if you drew a Rummage in one of those 2 cards, you couldn't play the Rummage. It was really weird. So they added the ability that if you only have one other card in your hand, you could discard 1 to draw 1. So you have the ability to half the effect, but still use it. It becomes a cantrip, right? You could recycle this card as opposed to, you know, digging deeper, I suppose. You know, so it's really good. It adds flexibility. You can't choose which one to use. If you have 2 cards to discard, you have to discard both. But if you only have one, and you don't want it, you could also do that, which is just pretty good overall. I do like that. It makes it just a better card to run, and you don't feel as bad for having it. Unstable, what? Voltician? This is another one that like a lot of 6-spell stuff going on between Piltover and Demacia, so that's probably where the deck's going to end up. I don't know if that's where it's best, but that's definitely what they're pushing, so I like trying what they're pushing first before I experiment on my own. But obviously, I want Shadow Isles for those dope-ass spells, but Piltover's got good stuff too. It used to be when I'm summoned, grant him +4/+0 and quick attack if you've cast a 6-spell card this game. Now, it just grants him +4/+0 and quick attack once you've cast a 6 card. It sounds different. The difference is the when I'm summoned is gone. So, the when I'm summoned I actually feel like might be a buff. It says it's all upside to a card that was severely underplayed, so hopefully, okay, it felt like a bit of a nerf to me actually, but maybe it is a buff. So because he's in your hand as an 8/4 quick attacker. But I like the when I'm summoned effect. It means that when you play it, and if you create copies of it, like if you Dawn to Dusked it, they would get the +4/+0 an additional time. So it would create they would be 12 fours with quick attack, which, you know, maybe it's not that good, but I like the one I'm summoned to getting doubled with Dawn of Dusk. But overall, this is probably just better because in your hand it's powerful, instead of having to, I don't know, maybe it's not really that different, huh? Sounds like it. Brut Awakening, 6-5. This is a card that I think is really scary to buff, but every time I think about this card being scary to buff, I realize that no one's playing it, right? Like I don't think I've seen anyone play this card before, at least like not in any reasonable amount. Like there's fully dedicated spider decks, and I don't see this card played. This card summons 3 spiderlings and gives all your spiders +1/+0. And if you're not seeing this card anywhere besides spider decks, I would be like, okay, that's probably fine at 6. It's obviously a niche card, but if you're not even seeing it there, you do need to buff it. It's a scary card to buff. You know, you're getting a lot of stuff. You're getting 3 bodies. You're getting 6 damage minimum over 3 bodies for now 5 mana. It's good. It's a really good card at 5. At 6, it is a little expensive, I'll admit, but I'm scared of this card overall just because of how wide it goes, how fast it's like, and how big it makes everything. But it's probably something I'm just a little over worried about. Let's try to hurry this up. I'm taking so long. Mark of the Isles was +3/+3, goes down to +2/+2. I like this nerf. The card is too powerful. I really wish they would have gone with maybe like a +3/+0 nerf or a +2/+0 nerf. I don't know why you need the HP. Because the card feels like it's supposed to be more aggressive or help with trades. The fact that it can help with trades, and they'll even say it here, probably, but the card can help in trades. It can help you avoid removal for, obviously you die at the end of the turn, but for Hecarim, if it lives through removal or something, it still gets to attack and get tons of value. And it has Overwhelm on top of it. So it can be good against removal. It can be good with trades. It can be good for pushing and for damage. I think if they just made it good for trades and good for pushing damage, and not good, and they made it so it gave you 0 power, or sorry, 0 toughness or HP, whatever it's called, that it might be a little bit more balanced. They didn't have to get rid of the attack potential. But it's a nerf that I'm happy with. I do like the idea of getting rid of the +2 to a +0 though. But that might just be me. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure I could be convinced out of that, but I liked it. Rekindler costs 6-7. People I think usually underrate these buffs, or these nerfs rather. I'm sorry. 1 mana cost is huge. There's only 10 in the game. You know, there's up to 10 mana. I mean, I guess there is a card. There's the card that's more than 10. There's like 12 or something. But for the most part, you know, as far as units go, they only go from 1 to 10. Or 0 to 10. All right, quit nitpicking me, all right? The point is, it's a huge nerf. A turn later is sometimes all a deck needs to win. You get another draw, you get another chance to get the answer. Everything about this card becomes worse. It's got a worse stat line for the mana cost. It's got a worse effect just in the sense that it comes out later. So this card's not by any means bad. Not by any stretch of the imagination bad. But a 1 mana nerf, although simple, is very, very efficient. Watchlist, Elise, and Frenzied Skitterer. I think Elise is totally fine. I honestly don't think Elise is that much of a trouble. When she's leveled up, that's a different story, but honestly, kind of hard to level up against decks that are interactive. Frenzied Skitterer, on the other hand, is a card that is so good in non-spider decks. I feel like maybe it should get... It's a 3-mana 3/3 with huge upside. Like, it's a good defensive card. It's a good offensive card. Yeah, I think that card should probably get something going to it. Like, I think more than Chump Wump, Frenzied Skitterer needed a little bit of a, you know, even a 3/2. Maybe a 2/3 would have been better. Or maybe just get rid of its Fearsome. I don't know. I'm not sure exactly how to nerf it. I do think that card should have probably been banned over something like Chump Wump. Glimpse Beyond, I am super sad to see did not get nerfed. It's, in my opinion, Glimpse from Beyond might be the strongest card in the whole game. Like, they nerf so many Shadow Owls. Last patch and this patch. Nerfs for Shadow Owls, and they won't touch this card. It means that, like, they don't want to. They're happy with where it's at. It just seems so... It's too strong. It's just too strong. I think it should give you 1 card. It should cost 3 mana, or it should be a slow speed. It lets you, quote, like, soft deny their removal spell, and then draw 2 cards off of it. So they lose their removal, because they were already going to use it to remove your thing, but then you get a... You know, basically make it like, oh, so you don't get any effect from that. Sometimes if it's like a Wild Feast, they also don't get the 1/1 or the Drain. So they actually they get less value out of the removal than they were going to get. And you get 2 cards out of it. It's so good. But yeah, you can see all these things they did nerf. I just, like, Black Spirit, I don't feel like needed to be nerfed. But they really like Glimpse from Beyond where it's at, I guess. I would really like to see this get nerfed in some way. And any change at all may end up severely nerfing. 1 second. Similar to Elise, our tuning options here are constrained, given Glimpse low mana cost design, and any change at all may end up severely nerfing it. Yeah, I know any nerf would severely nerf it, but honestly, I think this card could do for a severe nerf. It's the best card draw thing in the game, and because it's the best card draw card in the game, it makes it automatically one of the best card draws in the game, you know? Shadow Assassin, 3 mana 2/2 elusive. This is a card that I've appreciated more and more and more over time. Draws you a card when you play it. It's the most played card in Legends of Runeterra. It's good. It's a good card. It's not amazing. Like, it's actually not amazing in aggressive decks, but it can be. But man, this card is like so good in defensive decks because you get to play a 3 mana 2/2. You get a card back, so it replaces itself, and then it can block their elusives if they have it, or it can just block their stuff, and like, even if it blocks and dies, it still saved you some HP, still drew you a card. Sometimes the tempo loss could be a bit too much, but usually it's really, really good. I don't want them to see any changes to Shadow Assassin. I like where it's at. You don't want to get rid of the card. There's no good way to nerf it without ruining its stats. I think it's in a good spot right now. I don't think there's much you could do to that card. But honestly, the rest of the stuff is not stuff I'm super interested in. Variety of puff cap animation will take less time, so you can overlap with one another for beautiful rolling waves and mushrooms. I do believe that there was like burst spell things where you could time out your opponent on their turn by casting a bunch of your own burst spells. That's not cool. That should be fixed. Spinning axes are faster. Archetypes are being changed. I don't play expeditions. I mean, I play one a week, but not that much. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it looks like that's gonna be it. So overall, my opinions on the patch notes are pretty positive. I really, really enjoy it. I'm happy to see what they've nerfed, but even more than nerfs, I'm usually more happy to see buffs to weaker things like Callista. The Mage Seekers, just reworks, are pretty cool. I'm actually excited to see the Poro snacks. It makes me want to play Poros again, like, even though they're not that much better. Chump Wump hurts. And, yeah, not that many buffs, but there are some significant ones. I really, really wish Glimpse from Beyond would have been touched. I really wish Yasuo would have gotten changed, reworked, buffed, something. He just sucks so bad. But, you know, I heard people arguing that he'll be better when more cards come out. Maybe they'll just be better stun cards, because Yasuo's not inherently a bad card, as much as it is that the stun mechanic is weak and there's not good stun cards. So maybe just buff that. I would have loved to see a Vladimir buff. I like Vladimir a lot. I don't know if he's super viable. I don't know how they would buff him. Maybe just give him regeneration on his front half as well. I don't know if he needs to wait to get it until later. Garen has it on the front half, and Garen's arguably just better in general. Outside of that, any other buffs or nerfs that I'm really thinking were missed? Not really. I think that's basically it. I mean, any of the underplayed champions are always cool to see get a buff or something. But yeah, I guess that's going to be it. We're all done, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. Go ahead and check out my, at the end of this, you're going to see a playlist for all my Runeterra videos. Subscribe if you want to see more in the future. Do the liking, do the clicks, you know, whatever it is you're supposed to do that you're not going to do, but I should say that you should do it because you might end up doing it. Anyway, that's all. Peace out, friends. Have a good night. Purplatypus is Purplatypus.